We're back with fourth place trophy with our guests, John, LTM, and DeGaza. A week of La Liga has passed, and the results are out. Real Sociedad beat Getafe 2-0. Real Valladolid lost to Athletic 1-2. Valencia beat Malaga in a pretty disappointing game. Barcelona drew the headlines, beating Levante 7-0. Real Madrid and Real Betis had a well-fought match where Isco stole the game, winning it 2-1. Osasuna lost to Granada. Sevilla and Atletico Madrid went head-to-head, with Atletico Madrid stealing the 3 points, winning 3-1. Rayo Vallecano won 3-0 against Elche. Celta de Vigo and Espanyol went head-to-head and shared the points there, 2-2. Almeria and Villarreal, both newly promoted clubs, fought, and Villarreal came out on top 3-2. In this segment, I want to go over some of the clubs in La Liga, some of the more interesting ones. No one wants to talk about Elche. First off, I want to start with my favorite club, Barcelona. We'll start with you first, DeGaza. It'll be interesting to hear Madridista's point of view. So, Barcelona signed Tata Martino. What do you think of him? What are your expectations?
He is a great manager. I mean, here in South America, we watch a lot of Libertadores, and he was doing really well with Newell's Old Boys. They, in the semifinals, they had the better of Atletico Mineiro, but Atletico Mineiro has a very strong squad with Ronaldinho, Bernard, Joe. So then they were able to turn it around, and they got knocked out. But for a while, they were definitely favorites to win the entire competition. His team is very organized, actually. If it wasn't Pep Guardiola or Tito, there are very few other managers who could go and manage Barca, because of the way they play. And Tata is one of them. Tata, at least in South America, is probably the best coach to go and manage Barcelona. His team is very well organized. They pressure the ball a lot. They pass the ball a lot. They're very calm. He gets that from his players. They're very calm in possession. They don't panic. They don't be kicking the ball out, nothing like that. And he knows how to get results. In Argentina, they were doing well. They knocked out Boca Juniors, one of their rivals. They were doing really well, and I expect Barcelona to remain on top. I don't expect them to collapse or anything just because they got a new manager. A lot of people expected that when Guardiola left, but I expect them to remain on top. Right now, I do believe that they are favorites to win La Liga, and I expect them to do well.
Okay, John, what are your thoughts of Tata Martino?
Well, so far he's been great, and what I expect is an increase in work rate and rotation. Last season and, for 2 last seasons, there have been a certain static element to Barcelona's play, and at least from what we've seen now, that's no longer the case. The high tempo, high pressing is back. We know that Barcelona is still able to beat weak teams. The only question is how well we'll do against tougher opponents, if the Bayern fiasco will happen again or not.
Yeah, today is the Super Cup day, so after today, I think we'll know a lot more about this Tata Martino side. So far, I really like what he's done, especially bringing in the pressing game, which Tito didn't really have the time to enforce. It's been said this past week that Tito and his cancer treatments, they didn't really spend much time on tactics, and especially the pressing tactics and defensive tactics. And hopefully that, in all seriousness, you can only improve from what happened last year, because we were very, very bad defensively last year. LTM, do you have anything to add about Tata Martino?
I really don't know that much about him, so the only thing I can take from him is what I've seen from the couple of games where he's been in charge. And I have to agree about the pressing. Like, I think that was the biggest problem we had last season besides our defensive issue, but that we weren't pressing enough. And it caused a lot of trouble with our defense because it's part of our defending. But I think the one thing I'm excited to see is how he's going to use our defenders we currently have, because apparently now we're not going to get a defender. So I would like to see that. And I think that's a major issue. I feel like both Pep and Tito were a bit stubborn in that area. And I think I would like to see someone do something a little different instead of going for, a center defensive mid as a center back. And even though we haven't gotten a center back, I think I'm pretty excited to see what he has to offer and what he's going to do with our defense, because I think that's the only area where we really lacked last season.
Well, I think that we lacked an attack a bit too. We were very static at times, and so far under Tata, the most important result so far, we won 7-0 against Levante, which honestly isn't that great of a...
Yeah.
It's a great scoreline, but it's not a great contest. You touched on the center back problems. John, do you think that signing a center back is something that we should really look into, or can we get by until at least January without signing another one?
I think a lot of problems. I think I don't know if we whole as Barca fans thought this, but I know like a lot of us thought that last season Barca wasn't being used enough. They didn't get a lot of playing time. I would have preferred that we have gotten a center back, but I'm not gonna cry about it because I feel like we've done well without one before, and I just feel it was more tactics that caused us a lot of problems before, as well as, of course, our defending was atrocious, but I think we'll be fine. But I definitely feel that if something doesn't pan out this season, we really do need to get a center back, because it's something that's been ongoing for a few seasons now, and it's not going to go away.
Yeah, and Puyol, he's just getting back from injury, but we don't know how long he's going to be around for.
Exactly.
Yeah. John, do you think that we really need to sign a center back, or do you think we can hold off?
Well, at the moment, it all really depends on how well Puyol recovers from the injury. If it goes as well as hoped, that he's able to play paying free again, then we might be able to get on until we find a good defender for a good price. At the moment, we could either pay a lot for okay or unproven defender, or we could pay incredibly ridiculous amount for proven great defenders. And that's part of the problem. I don't think anyone at Barcelona is willing to spend 30 million on a defender that's just okay or that's unproven. But if Puyol won't be able to recover as hoped, then I don't think we've got an option that we have to buy one in December, because without Puyol there's just not enough defenders to go around. Even with Puyol, we should keep looking for a good one or a great one.
Yeah, it'd be great if we snatched up a player like Rafael Varane, who last year was pretty damn awesome.
No.
So, Tagazo, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I think you cannot have Varane, so try to look for somebody else. I agree with LTM. In some ways, with Barcelona, it's more tactics than actually having a defender. Because Barcelona, let's say when Pep Guardiola first took over, right? There were two things that you could see that he was in his mind. The first thing is that attack is the best form of defense, right? And that as long as we have the ball, they can hurt us, which is correct. If you don't have the ball, you can't score. First, you gotta get the ball and then you gotta score. Barcelona, they kept passing last season. They passed the ball well, but they didn't, how can I say, they didn't really keep possession the way they did in their first 2-3 seasons with Guardiola, pressuring up front to make sure that they get the ball before it reaches anywhere near their goal. You understand? Making sure that they get the ball and keep it. That way the team is not only going to have to, first they're going to have to work hard to get the ball, and then they're going to have to work hard to create a play and score the goal. So then there is that has to change, you know. Martino has to do something about that. In the first few games, even in some of the friendly matches that I watched with Barcelona, they look like that high pressure is coming back. You know, they look like that Barcelona from 2 or 3 years back. And if it was my team, I would really want to sign a center back, you know, because like you said, Puyol, he's coming back from injury. He isn't getting any younger. Bartra, yes, he's talented, and you know, he has a bright future, but if you go and put him in a Champions League semi-final against Bayern, you know, and you concede about 3 goals and all 3 are his fault, you can't blame him. You understand? It's not his fault. The manager has to know that this player is not ready to be in a match or in this position in this kind of match. So I think it would be important for Barcelona to sign at least one centre back, you know, get that out of the way. And it's also gonna be good for the players, knowing that, you know, they've reinforced. If the players knowing that they have defensive problems, once you sign a good centre back, the players are going to be more comfortable now. They're going to be more confident that they could go out and play and keep clean sheets and defend well and so forth.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The psychological aspect of signing a center back, especially an experienced one, could do wonders for the team. I think that the change to a more pressing system is probably going to take a lot of the focus off of the lack of a center back, or the lack of depth in center back. In all honesty, Tata Martino is probably not the biggest story around Barcelona. The biggest story is obviously the signing of Brazilian boy wonder Neymar. John, what do you think of Neymar? Do you think he's worth the 57 million?
Well, I don't think anyone expects him to be worth it in the first season alone. He was bought because of his name and because of his prospect. And I think he'll live up to it, but it won't be in this season. I mean, there's few players who could actually justify 57 million in one or in the first season. And I don't think he's there yet. From what I've seen, he's got the talent, and from what I've heard, he should be humble. So he should be able to work with the team and to adapt. But, well, time will tell.
Gaza, as a fellow Brazilian, what do you have to say about Neymar?
Well, I love Neymar. I think he's a great player, and well, we're obviously Brazilians. We're expecting very good things from him, you know, because we haven't had a player with so much flair and since Ronaldinho. But as for his price, I also think that it was a bit too much, because he came straight from the Brazilian league. I mean, it's very different. You're coming from Brazil and then going to Spain and play. I know most of the Brazilians are successful when they go play in Spain, even more than when they do in the EPL. But, you know, let's say if he was playing for a team like, a team in the EPL, you know, a decent side. If he was playing for a good side like Tottenham or Everton, even Liverpool, you know, they're a pretty good team. If he was playing for one of those teams and playing at least in the Europa League or in the Champions League and, you know, performing well, and then going to Barcelona, that would have been one thing. 57 million would have probably been, would have probably seemed, you know, correct, a bit more correct. But coming from the Brazilian league, in the Brazilian league, it is true that the defenders, the teams aren't, how can I put it, that good. They're not as organized. The defending is sometimes horrible. It's terrible. There are a lot of strikers, a lot of good attacking players, but in defense, Brazil has always been sometimes a bit shaky, you know, in the league itself. And coming straight from Brazil to Barcelona for that amount of money, it might be a bit too much because you have no guarantee that the player is gonna do well. You have no guarantee that the player is gonna do well in such a huge change. It's a very big step from playing in Santos in Brazil. Santos, who weren't really doing that well. They did well in Libertadores, but then a few months after Libertadores, they sold a few players and everything just changed completely. And then you take a huge step and you go for 57 million to Barcelona with completely different, completely unique kind of way of playing, completely different players, different league. So 57 million might have been a bit too much.
LTM, what do you think of the acquisition of Neymar for 57 million?
I think that is just too much. I think personally, I feel sometimes Barcelona is lopsided in their thinking. I don't know if they were that anxious to get Neymar, why they spent 7 million, but just like, I completely agree with everyone else. I mean, I think 57 million for someone that's not even proven in Europe. Nowhere in Europe is he proven. Like, he never played in Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga, not even in Portugal. Where they're gonna go and spend 57 million on a player that's not proven. Granted, he's the hottest thing around now, but to me, that's ridiculous. And this goes right back to what we were talking about. Instead of Barcelona looking at where their problem area is, which is defense, they went and bought a $57 million attacking player when their real issue was in defense. And yet they were willing to spend 57 million on Neymar, who's not even in Europe yet. So in my opinion, this is just another reason why I think Barcelona in itself is stubborn and they're just really lopsided in their thinking.
Okay. Well, I have to mention fellow fourth place trophy member, Marquinhos. We were talking about Neymar the other day, and he was talking about how Neymar doesn't really need to he doesn't need to have that European experience to warrant that kind of price tag. I think 57 is a little steep, but if we look at other teams, like we have Oscar, who came in for 30 million, and then we have Lucas Moura. He went to PSG for 35 million. And they're kind of similar players. Neymar is obviously a lot more expensive, but he has that marketing. His biggest strength is in marketing, and that is really going to bode well going to a World Cup year. And that is why Rosell was so desperate to get Neymar this season, just because of the World Cup, just because it's in Brazil, and we have Brazil's biggest star, their most marketable player.
But 57?
57. Yeah, it's really hard to justify that, but...
I mean, look what you said. You said like 30, not even 40, but 57. Like, if you think right now of which players around is worth 57, and I understand completely what you're saying, that's why I said, I mean, of course he's the hottest thing around now, so it's like, besides, the Messi, Ronaldo, and whatever, but I don't think you can justify 57 million. I don't think you can justify 57 million. 40 tops.
But the thing with Neymar is that South America hasn't seen a player like him for a very long time. He's been smashing Santos records. He's 21 right now, and he's the second highest scorer for Santos. He has been pretty awesome for Brazil. I think his goals to game ratio for Brazil is pretty high. So we can just look at his Confederations Cup. He was by far their best player. He showed that you can build around him, that he can assist, that he'll work hard moving back. I don't really understand. So far, it looks like he's buying into the Barcelona philosophy, tracking back, working as a team. I don't think, even if he had European experience, that would be as important as just the willingness to learn. I think 57 million is a bit pricey now, but like Oscar, who was bought for 30 million, which I think is worth a lot more now. I think I'd say he's probably the third most expensive player on Chelsea right now, behind Hazard and Mata. I think 30 million was a bargain for Oscar, and 57 million will prove to be a bargain for Neymar.
Can I just say, Monaco bought Rodriguez for 45 million. I don't think I knew about him before he moved.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the transfer market is so different now. It's become so competitive. If we believe the rumors that others were offering 100 million or something for Neymar, then to really, well, in comparison to that, 57 is almost nothing. And we have to keep in mind that if the rumors are true, Barcelona will pay this in 3 years, and 10 million was already paid. So it's not like they sacrificed their defense to get Neymar. It's more like this was a long time side project that really didn't affect their budget that much this year.
No, I do not think Neymar will affect any of the budgets. That's how Rosell worked it out, apparently. And Rosell is a sketchy character, but we don't have enough time to talk about him on this podcast. So, unless any one of you have more to talk about Barcelona, we'll go on to their eternal rivals. LTM, what do you think of Madrid this season coming up? And what do you think of Ancelotti? What can we expect from him?
For Real Madrid, to be honest, I feel already that they're a better team just because Mourinho is not around. I just feel like he caused a lot of trouble within himself, just between the players and just the club itself. So I feel like that on a whole, they're just a better team already, just because of that. I think especially with probably their defense is probably going to be much better, more organized. Of course, they're going to probably play more, I guess, attacking more than Mourinho. And I think he's going to shuffle a lot of players around because obviously, him bringing in certain players, you can see a lot of players that are moving out. So, for instance, I think it would be like Xabi Alonso and, what's his name again?
Mendy?
I forgot it. No.
Khedira?
Modric, Khedira,
Oh, yes, and I even forgot about him.
Casemiro.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, I feel like he's gonna be shuffling a lot of players around. They're gonna be looking a little bit different. But, I mean, overall, I can see Real Madrid being pretty competitive, more so than when they were under Mourinho. And with their signings, of course, I was really upset about Isco moving because I really didn't want him to go there. But obviously, it looks like he's going to be doing pretty good there. And that's what part of what I mean. I mean, even with their right back, Arabiol, he's garbage. Sorry, Tata. I'm sorry. But he's garbage. And I think he's probably their worst player. So I think his position is doomed for the future. And I can see that changing. And that's basically what I see with them. I think it's gonna be a lot of shuffling around with players this season for them.
Well, yeah, Arbeloa didn't get the start against Real Betis in the opening fixture. You talked about Ancelotti and kind of mentioned how he is less of a sideshow than Mourinho. I wanted to save this question for later, but I think this is a appropriate time. One of the biggest problems with Mourinho, or one of the biggest storylines, was benching your defending European Championship winner and World Cup goalkeeper, Iker Casillas. What do you think of this, and is it justified? LTM?
Is it justified? I'm partial to this because I really, even though Casillas is playing for Real Madrid, and I like him. I like him as a player. I feel like he is one of their, if not most loyal player on their team. And more than anyone else, no matter what happens with the team, you had Ramos doing this, you had Xabi Alonso doing this, you had all these different players like having troubles going on. And I feel like more than anything, I feel like it's just like when I think of Iker Casillas, I think of Real Madrid. He is just everything that they are to me. So I feel like benching him would not be the best idea. I feel that he needs to start for Real Madrid. But I think I can understand why Ancelotti would play what's his name again?
Diego Lopez.
Diego Lopez. I was thinking Diego Alves. Diego Lopez. I can understand because I mean he's done pretty well. How can you bench a player that's been doing really, really well? I don't think you can really do that. But I mean it's a tough situation. I would hope to see Casillas back in the starting 11. And I don't fault him. I know that there was a lot of issue about him and the training Diego Lopez and whatever. And I know this is going to be controversial, but I don't blame him because I feel like a lot of things that's gone on between him and the club recently that shouldn't have gone on. And I think a lot of things need to be changed. So I don't blame him for what he did.
Okay, DeGaza. I just want to add a little tidbit onto your question. With Iker Casillas on the bench, who do you think will pick up the leadership slack?
That's honestly a tough one because, after in Madrid it's done this way. Leadership is one thing and then the captain armband is the next, right? The one who picks up the captain's armband is the one who's there for longest, the person playing on the field who's in the club for longest, which all of the time is Casillas. After him, it's Ramos. That's how it goes in Real Madrid, which is something I don't agree with because I find it really silly. But it being Ramos, I don't think it's a good idea because Ramos is very passionate, yes, but he's very hot-headed. He could be dirty sometimes. I can't deny that. Ramos could be pretty dirty, and I like the guy. Sometimes they do say you need that in a defender sometimes, right? But you need a defender to put his foot over there and just trip you whenever you're going on a counterattack, something like that. But nothing like nearly punching you or anything like that. Sometimes Ramos does overreact, and it's not something that you want to see in a captain or someone that's leading the team. So Ike has always been the best person to lead. In terms of leadership, I really think Ramos is okay, but sometimes he loses his head. Apart from Casillas, I don't really, because Casillas has always been there. It's hard to vision anybody else leading the team. You think of Casillas or Alonso, but even Alonso sometimes could be hard-headed, but he has a lot of experience and so forth. Ronaldo, yes, but Ronaldo also hard-headed. It's a problem that Madrid has all over the place. And sometimes if the players are not hot-headed, they're a bit too calm to become captain. Like Khedira and Ozil, they're a bit more calm and they have had less time in the club and everything. Di Maria, don't even think about it. Marcelo, also way too hard-headed. So when you think about it, Casillas is the perfect man to lead the team. When I think about his situation now, it's complicated because Casillas was being benched at first. He already had problems with Mourinho, but he was being benched because of his performances. In the beginning of last year, about 3 months into the season, he was performing really badly. He wasn't doing well, and Mourinho was replacing him with Adan. That was creating problems, but most of the fans were understanding that Casillas was not doing well. There was something wrong. He was in the worst form I had ever seen him in. And then we signed Lopez. He got injured, right, first, and then we signed Lopez. Lopez started playing, and Lopez is playing really well. Most of the times, Lopez is reminding us of Casillas, how he was last year, the year before, 2 years back, or how he normally is. And now he's back. Mourinho has had problem with Casillas. People are saying that's the reason why Casillas hasn't returned to the first team. And now Ancelotti came in, and he's still using Lopez as his main keeper. I don't find that wrong, because like I said, Lopez is playing well. And when you're in a club like Real Madrid with a lot of talented players, you have to make sure that the player who gets the role or who gets the spot is the player who deserves it more. The player who stands out. The player who plays well. And at the moment it's being Lopez. Even the game against Betis, he did really well. He saved 2 or 3 goals, that could have been sure goals. And it's something that Casillas is just gonna have to earn back. His starting spot. He can't feel sorry for himself. He just has to believe. I could tell you that everybody in Real Madrid wants Casillas to get that spot back. Everybody in Real Madrid wants to see Casillas as the captain and starting every match. But everybody also knows that it would be unfair for another player who also came from Castilla, who's also from our youth, who was also a youth player in Real Madrid. It would be unfair to just take him and bench him just because Casillas has a name. That would be unfair. He's deserved his spot, and that's why he's playing.
Fair points. John, what do you have to say on this issue?
The main problem is that it's so clearly political. I mean, I understand that he was injured, which meant that Madrid had a replacement for him. But since then, he hasn't played once. I mean, it's good to say that he can't be a starter because he's not performing, but if he never plays, he will never perform, and you will never know how well he performs. I mean, that's for me the main problem, that since he's been back, he hasn't really had the chance to even prove himself to Real anymore. And that's the thing that I find a bit a shame. If I'm reading this correctly, his first real game since his injury was for Spain. It was the Confed Cup for Spain. And that's just when you've got a figure that's so important for not just on-pitch reasons, but off-pitch reasons as Casillas, I just think that you should do more to get him back into the game. You should give him the chances, at least against weaker teams, so that he can get back to full fitness. If you keep him on the bench all the time, he'll never be able to challenge.
That's true. That was something. That's because Mourinho had problems with Casillas. Everybody knew that the reason why Mourinho never played Casillas, even in the easier games, right, was because the two of them had problems. Now there's a new problem. Ancelotti is the new manager. Ancelotti shouldn't be having any problem with Casillas. He has no problems with Casillas. But still Casillas isn't starting. What people want, especially in Spain, because the media like to try and control things in Real Madrid, is that Ancelotti arrives and immediately removes Lopez from the starting 11 and puts Casillas. That's what I disagree with. And I agree with Ancelotti in starting the season, making a point to everybody, especially Casillas, that if he's gonna get the spot back, he's gonna have to play and he's gonna have to earn it. I believe that Ancelotti is gonna give Casillas the chances that he needs, to play. I believe they're gonna mix it up a bit, with the Copa del Rey, Champions League, La Liga, all those matches. He's gonna mix goalkeepers and everything. He's gonna give him the chance to play. But I believe that Ancelotti is right to come to Madrid and keep Lopez in the goal, because before he arrived, Lopez was the starting player and Lopez was doing well.
Okay, I understand Diego Lopez has been one of the better keepers in La Liga since he's arrived at Real Madrid. It's still extremely hard for me to just picture Iker Casillas not starting for Real Madrid. Actually, it's hard to picture him having any problems at Real Madrid. I'm not sure if the problems are actually real problems. I know there's a quote about him talking about how he gets to play for the Bernabeu trophy. Honestly, that sounded kind of like a joke to me, but I don't know what the tone of that quote was. Over at Barcelona, we have the problem of Victor Valdés. I think Victor Valdés is a great goalkeeper, but the problem is that he's leaving. Do you think that Iker Casillas has a chance to follow Valdés out of the clubs?
No.
You don't think that?
I don't think so.
I think that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, and I guess you guys see it too, that Iker Casillas is Real Madrid. Like, I think he's very loyal despite everything that's going on between him and the club and whatever else, whatever problems he has. I think he's still very loyal. I don't think he would leave.
I also don't think there's any reason for him to want to leave. I mean, if Mourinho would continue, if the club would have picked Mourinho over him, that would have been one thing. He would know that his only way to get away from this, or to get away from all the problems, would have been to leave the club. But now, it's a new manager. Everything's completely different. And now, there's one thing for Casillas that was lacking a not lacking, but that it wasn't there for a few years now in Real Madrid, a competition. Casillas never had any competition for his position. There was always Adan, but who's Adan compared to Casillas? And then now there's Lopez, and Lopez plays really well. So now Casillas, like everybody else, is gonna have another player he's gonna compete with. The same way that, Isco is competing in the midfield with Di Maria and Ozil and, Khedira, Alonso, Casemiro, and all of them are competing, in the midfield. In the defense, there's Pepe with Varane and Arbeloa with Carvajal, Coentrão with Marcelo. Now there's Lopez and Casillas, and he's just gonna have to play and on the spot. I don't believe he'll leave, because I don't really think there's any reason to leave. I think everything now is normal, and once Casillas starts playing more games, which I'm sure he will, I'm sure Ancelotti will do, then I believe he'll earn his spot back, because he's a very good goalkeeper. One of a kind.
So you admit that Mourinho is or was a detriment to Real Madrid?
Oh, Mourinho, despite how much I like Mourinho caused a lot of problems because he was too stubborn. Everything had to be his own way. I do agree with that. He caused a lot of problems. But like I've always said, I've always believed he was a great manager. But towards the end of last season, it was obvious that he just had to go. There was no way for things to work for us and for things to work for him. Then both would have to just go their separate ways.
What kind of changes do you expect from Ancelotti? What changes from Mourinho will we expect?
I expect it to be more of a team now. With Zidane, and not just Ancelotti. Zidane is very important because he's in there. I expect it to be more of a team. Last year, everybody was just so divided, Everything was just so divided. Even players who were close friends, like Ronaldo and Marcelo, they just got divided. Everything was so divided, and that was because the manager was divided as well from the players. You understand? It's very important that the manager brings everybody together. So I expect there to be a lot more clear heads in Madrid. With Mourinho gone, the media hated Mourinho, and therefore, not only Mourinho used to get a lot of the hate, but Real Madrid itself, the players, everybody used to get a lot of the hate. With Mourinho gone and Ancelotti now in charge, everything is going to be calmer. You understand? There's going to be a lot of less people pressuring, unless Real Madrid starts losing games back to back. There's going to be a lot less people pressuring the club, the players, the manager, and I expect it to be a good season, a smooth season.
What kind of formation do you think Ancelotti will play? And do you expect better defense?
Defense, yeah, I expect the defense to be better. I believe Ancelotti came to Madrid already knowing that the defense is shaky. I also believe that we kind of have a hard time breaking teams down when they decide to defend. We have a hard time scoring. But as for formation, I don't know. He's tried a few, since he's reached. He's played with the regular 4-2-3-1, the 4-3-3, the 4-2-2-2-2, and I believe that the best one for us would be the 4-2-3-1. I think that formation is perfect for Real Madrid. And a lot of people say that it's a counter-attacking type of formation, like a Mourinho kind of way of playing, but I don't believe so. When you look at Bayern last season, and the season before, they played the entire season with a 4-2-3-1. And after Barcelona, they were the second team with the most possession in Europe for 2 years in a row. So it's a very solid formation. To me, it's a very solid formation. Whenever you need to defend, it's solid. Whenever you need to overcrowd the midfield, it's solid. The players going forward, especially having Ronaldo making his runs from the wing, it's a very good formation. I think that would be the best formation, but I expect the same formation that he used versus Betis, the 4-2-2-2. Yeah.
The 4-2-2-2.
I said an extra 2, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I noticed. I said 4-2-2-2-2-2. Not bad.
So with the 4-2-2-2, I hope I got enough twos in there. One of the problems is that it lacks a lot of width. It's a huge talking point with the fourth place trophiers, especially Magneto. Magneto is just the biggest. Magneto hates it like the plague, like the human plague. I'm not sure if 4-2-2-2 is the right formation for Madrid. I think what Ancelotti really did with PSG was just try to fit all the talent into one lineup, and I think that it worked well in League One. Actually, it didn't even work well in League One. I don't think that he will be able to continue on with a 4-2-2-2 in La Liga or in the Champions League. But anyways, moving on from tactics, I think we want to get to the fun part. I know I missed you, John. So I'll start with you. What do you think of Real Madrid's transfers?
Well, from a quality standpoint, they're great. The only question on my mind is price paid, especially for Illaramendi. I don't think he's proven enough to warrant such a high price. He had one great season, and that's basically it. I'm not saying that he'll be great, but that he won't be great. I think he'll be great. I just feel that they overpaid a bit. But then again, they've got the money to spend, and the current transfer climate is what it is. So maybe that was actually what they had to pay to get anyone of that quality. But still, that's the one thing that really struck out, how much they paid for Illaramendi. But in comparison, that makes Isco look like a bargain. So
yeah, what do you have to say, LTM? I know what you think about Isco, but how about Illaramendi, Carvajal, and I guess we can even talk about Casemiro.
I would. How much did they pay for him? Because I'm kind of lost. I don't really know how much they paid for him.
I believe they paid close to 40 million.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel them. Okay, I don't mean to be mean with this or anything like that, but them along with like Chelsea, I feel like they inflate the market with their prices. I don't know. I have to agree. I think that's a bit much, but.
Yeah, I do agree, but the good thing is at least it's staying in La Liga and not going to EPL.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, it's still taken away from one of the La Liga's teams, so.
Okay.
Give and take situation.
Felipe, what do you think of Madrid's transfers this window?
I think it's been good. I mean, Carvajal and Casemiro. Casemiro came from the youth team, right? But putting him now in the first team, in the A team, it's great. We needed a player like him. Illaramendi, I thought he was very expensive. I couldn't believe it when I saw that we signed him for that much, because it was kind of unexpected for me. It was really expensive. He was a player that we didn't really need. I don't feel we needed him. A lot of people saying that we needed him to replace Alonso. Yes, we will need a player to replace Alonso, but we didn't need him at that time for that price. So I thought that he was expensive. Isco, at first, I thought that, we didn't need to sign Isco. I thought there was no need to really sign Isco, but then, I stopped and I realized that I've always liked Isco, but I stopped and I realized that if we didn't sign him, somebody else would.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I realized. I realized that, as I thought, like, okay, Isco had one really good season for Malaga. So, why don't we just let him see if he's gonna have another good season for Malaga and then we sign him. But then I realized that he will not be with Malaga anymore. He's gonna go somewhere else. And after that, how much did we sign him for? It was 20-something million?
I think it was 30 million.
No, I think it was 30 million?
I think so, yeah.
Well, we signed him for about that. He would be double the price the next time, and we wouldn't be able to sign him. Or we would, but, by then it's gonna be a very expensive. So then, with his transfer, it was good. I thought it was good. We signed a very young, good Spanish player before anybody else could get their hands on him. and Barca, and yeah, I think the window's going great. Oh God, I just don't agree with the Gareth Bale part now.
Oh, I wanted to save Gareth Bale for a little later.
Oh wait, can I say this? I think the signing, or I guess getting Carvalho, is a good and a bad thing. One,
Caballero?
yeah, Carvalho. I think it's a good and a bad thing. It's a bad thing just because, well, for Real Madrid, it's a good thing because obviously I think you needed him. It's a bad thing because for everyone else, I guess you're better on that side, defending.
I never thought that Arbeloa was that much of a defensive liability. I just thought that with Arbeloa playing, that the attack on the right side was almost non-existent. It's great that Real Madrid strengthened that position. I think Carvajal is definitely an upgrade to Arbeloa, who I continue to think was a useless member of the Spanish national team.
Yeah.
Along with Albiol. With the signings with Real Madrid signings, Isco, Ieramendi, I think that if you look at the players themselves, that they do have their part to give to Real Madrid. I think that they're good signings. I also agree that they paid a little much for Ieramendi, but I think that they bought him at the wrong time. I think that the prices was really inflated because he was coming off the U23 championship, the European championship there, where he did really awesome. Isco definitely was a great buy for them. With the departure of Thiago, I think that we would have gone after Isco if he was still at Malaga. And Felipe is right in saying that Real Madrid moved on Isco quickly, and it will end up being a great move. But anyways, news is trickling out that Gareth Bale is on the verge of moving to Real Madrid. I myself am not a very big Gareth Bale fan. I love this move because Real Madrid are paying way over value for Gareth Bale for a player that I don't think will make the team better at all. I think he'll take away from the team. I think he's a very selfish elf.
Elf?
Yes, he's an elf. And I don't know how the two egos of Gareth Bale and Real Madrid and Ronaldo will handle themselves.
Well, he's already wearing white, so.
What do you think about Gareth Bale, John?
I like him well enough from a skill standpoint. He's a gifted player. He's nowhere worth that money they're talking about, and well, he's got a bit of a big head at the moment, but I'm not sure if that's not something that he can come to terms with if he's just under the proper management. Playing for a team where you're the big shot, then that might lead to some ego problems, but I don't think he'll assume that he'll be the big dog at Real. I don't think anyone would ever think that. It's so clear that Ronaldo is the man at Real. And if Bale comes, I'm sure that he'll know that he won't be the main player at Real.
Okay, and finally, Felipe, what do you think of Gareth Bale?
Gareth Bale is a great player, is an amazing player, but I find signing him unnecessary. But like you said, I don't really think he's gonna add anything, to the squad. I also think like this, if there's too much depth, it becomes a problem, especially with quality players. Because then, if you put Bale to play, let's say, for example, you put Bale to play, you're going to be putting Di Maria and Ozil on the bench. And then if you put Ozil to play, that's Bale and Di Maria on the bench. If you take Isco out, there's Isco, and then there are a whole lot of players that have enough quality to start for Real Madrid. But then you look at them, 2 or 3 of them are probably going to be on the bench because there's too many players. There is such a thing as having too many quality players in one team. I believe that there is. And in the end, players, it ends up causing confusions. Players end up wanting out because, they'll look at themselves and be thinking, I'm not getting enough playing time. Something kind of familiar to Cointron. I'm not getting enough playing time. And, even though I'm doing my best, there are other players out there, are playing ahead of me, so forth. So then they end up wanting out, so they end up causing fights and confusions inside of the dressing room, inside of the club, and it ruins the atmosphere inside of the team. I think that as Real Madrid are right now, I think it's good because I always think that when you have at least one replacement for each player in every position, I think that's enough. Because then if a player gets injured or if a player is tired or whatever, you just replace him. And once you replace him, there won't be another player on the bench looking and saying, hey, what about me? I've been here as well. I've been training hard as well and so forth. So I think it's unnecessary. Then there's the price. He's really expensive. I mean, rumors say 109 million now. That's the latest rumors. That's a lot of cash for, a player. He's a good player and everything, but a lot of people try to compare him to Ronaldo, and he's no Ronaldo. Ronaldo was bought for 90 million, but then, you look at Ronaldo and what he had already achieved and everything at that time. Not to mention, at that time, Real Madrid was a completely different team. Real Madrid was desperate. Real Madrid needed players like Ronaldo at that time. We weren't even making it past the last 16 in the Champions League. We weren't winning anything. We were losing to Barcelona straight. So then the signing of Ronaldo, Kaká, Alonso, Benzema, everybody at the same time was a lot more necessary than signing a player like Bale now for 109 million.
Okay, I just have a question for you, Felipe. I'm just wondering, is this more of a move by Florentino Perez, or does Ancelotti actually think that the club needs Bale?
I don't think Ancelotti wants him, because remember, these rumors are way before Ancelotti became a Madrid coach. They're since last season, or if I'm not mistaken, even the season before, that Real Madrid want Bale, or then the season ends and January transfer windows open and Real Madrid wants Bale. Same thing always before. So then now that Ancelotti has reached, they've asked him about it. He said he's a good player and everything, but he as well has never said that he wants Gareth Bale or that the team needs a player like Gareth Bale. Nothing like that. So I think it might just be Perez who wants to sign Bale.
Yeah, I think Florentino Perez feels like he needs to do something big because Barcelona got Neymar, and especially because Barcelona beat Real Madrid to Neymar. I believe that Real Madrid bid an atrocious amount for Neymar as well. Anyways, with
not 109. That's ridiculous.
109 is extremely ridiculous.
I mean, it's no words.
Anyways, I think we've had enough of Barca and Real Madrid. It's not a two-team league. There's a lot of other teams, and we'll move on to those.
Spider Pig, Spider Pig.